Good evening. Today's Bible study comes from Luke chapter 13, verses 10 through 17, and reads as follows. On the Sabbath, Jesus was teaching in one of the synagogues, and a woman was there who had been crippled by a spirit for 18 years. She was bent over and could not straighten up at all. When Jesus saw her, he called her forward and said to her, "Woman, you are set free from your infirmity." Then he put his hands on her, and immediately she straightened up and praised God. Indignant because Jesus had healed on the Sabbath, the synagogue leader said to the people, "There are 6 days for work, so come and be healed on those days, not on the Sabbath." The Lord answered him, "You hypocrites, doesn't each of you on the Sabbath unite your ox or donkey from the stall and lead it out to give it water? Then should not this woman, a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan has kept bound for 18 years, be set free on the Sabbath day from what bound her?" When he said this, all his opponents were humiliated, but the people were delighted with all the wonderful things he was doing. Well, Jesus was on the Sabbath day and he was teaching in the synagogue. And one of the synagogues, and that's what he did. And a woman was there who had been crippled by a spirit. And this was an evil spirit for 18 years. And this spirit had crippled her. And she was bent over from it, and could not straighten up at all. And when Jesus saw her, he called her forward and said to her, "Woman, you are set free from your infirmity." What he did was he told the demon, "You out of there. That infirmity is that demon. You gone." Then he put his hands on her, and immediately she straightened up and praised God. Wow, he touched her and straightened her up. Love from the Lord. So Jesus did the thing that he always had done with these spirits. He told them they had to go. And oh, and we don't get all our physical issues from spirits. I don't want you to think that, but at this time, it was a physical spirit that had been on this woman for 18 years. And she was healed that day on the Sabbath day. And now this was wild for these other people, because the ones that know everything. Indignant because Jesus had healed on the Sabbath, the synagogue leader said to the people, he didn't just say it to Jesus, but he spoke out to the people, meaning he took over and wanted them to acknowledge who he is and was. And he said, "There are 6 days for work, so come and be healed on those days, not on the Sabbath." Now, that makes no sense even when he says it, because the Lord wants us to do good all the time. And who was in charge of the Sabbath but Christ? So he's telling them, you can be healed on every day except the Sabbath day. This was not going well. And Jesus answered them and he said, "You hypocrite." And then he relates it to their animals, their cattle, the things that helped them have a livelihood. And he says, "Doesn't each of you on the Sabbath unite your ox or donkey from the stall and lead it out to give it water?" Uh-oh, you mean to tell me you can take care of an animal, but I can't heal a child of God? Uh-oh. So Jesus addresses this. He says, "Then should not this woman," because I know you take your donkey and your oxen out to get water and all your other animals on the Sabbath day that you said I can't do anything on. And Jesus says, "Then should not this woman, a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan has kept bound for 18 long years, be set free on the Sabbath day for what bound her? Uh-oh. You mean to tell me that Jesus just told him we do good on the Sabbath day, and Jesus controls the Sabbath day, and if you can take an animal out on the Sabbath day and do good things for it, feeding it, letting it drink, you mean to tell me that you think that holds more value in the eyes of God than his daughter and sons? Mm. When he said this, all his opponents were humiliated because Jesus had just schooled them. He had just showed them something that they might not have been looking at. And their pomposity and arrogance, and as you saw when he said to all the people about the 6 days and not the Sabbath day, he thought he knew something. And the reason him and his opponents were humiliated was because they just got schooled. And then it says, but the people were delighted with all the wonderful things he was doing. Jesus was doing good things. The Lord tells us he sets us up for good things, and our job is to do them. If you look in Ephesians, it will tell you about our good deeds that the Lord has already put out there for us to do. So do them because Jesus did, and Jesus would, and Jesus continues to do so. Amen.